I have been working as an andrologist for 3 years, and I have long been accustomed to various situations. However, the last patient today caught me off guard. He turned out to be my long-awaited little boy, Shi Yan. The 22-year-old Shi Yan is tall, handsome, and has clear eyes that always make people want to get close to him. But today he came to see a doctor because of some embarrassing problems, which made me panic. When he saw it was me, unexpected joy appeared on his face and he shouted, "Sis, what a coincidence it is you." I smiled slightly, but felt a little confused. The registration form showed that he had no obvious symptoms. He just looked at me blankly. It wasn't until I asked him a question that he came back to his senses. He looked at me, his eyes evasive, a little uneasy. "Actually, I don't have any disease, I just..." His tone was hesitant, which made me even more confused. At first I thought he might just have an occasional physical problem, but his words gave me a different guess. He finally whispered his confusion, "Sis, I am just myself, I don't feel anything." This startled me. I thought it was just a simple physical problem, but I didn't expect it to be so complicated. My heartbeat was racing, but I remained calm on the outside. I smiled softly. "Why did you come here to see me? Even if there is a problem, it doesn't necessarily have to be handled by me." He seemed a little anxious and hurriedly denied, "No, I'm not sick. I really just wanted to come and take a look." But I know that there must be some unspoken confusion in his heart. I was calm on the outside, but broken inside. I thought it was just too fast or something like that. Fortunately, among misfortune, I just had a secret love, and my love died quietly. "Go and lie down in the back, I'll check." He's stunned. "If you mind, I'll let a male colleague come and see it." I was about to get up when he grabbed my sleeve. The voice is very soft, "No need to change people." I don't mind." "Phew, then I'm going to open the blind box." Then the accident happened unexpectedly. As soon as my hand touched it, I was hit by a mushroom that suddenly popped up. "It's so touching, it's so good to be young." He was sitting on the examination bed, feeling a little at a loss. The tone is awkward. "Sis, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." I lowered my head and sighed. I have been a doctor for 3 years and this is the first time I have been attacked. He let out a soft cry and lowered his head, not daring to look at me at all. It seems that the little boy is quite innocent. He looks so handsome. I subconsciously took another look at him. I turned around and closed the curtain and said, "Put on your pants and come out. There seems to be nothing wrong with your body. Were you normal with your girlfriend before?" Shi Yan sat back across from me again. "I haven't been in love yet." He looks so handsome but has never been in love. No wonder the little boy gets excited easily. Then you should watch less pornographic films. Maybe it's because I didn't feel it after watching it too much. I don't watch much porn either. I was completely silent. You kid is just relying on your own imagination. But judging from your reaction just now, it's normal for your age. Shi Yan took a breath. The tone is very unnatural. I don't know either. He looked at me awkwardly. Maybe it's just because I see the doctor now. I paused for a moment while holding the mouse hand. It's time for you to find a girlfriend. Shi Yan and my younger brother are the same age. My younger brother has already had several girlfriends. By the way, are you going to eat after get off work? Who doesn't eat after get off work? I mean, I'll treat you to food. He stared at me, his eyes shining brightly. I'm panicking. I have an appointment tonight. Shi Yan is still staring at me. Come closer again. Is he a very important man? Is he trying to woo me? I thought carefully about it. Is Chen Hanchuan considered an important man? It shouldn't count. I picked up the phone. Send a message saying I won't have dinner with him today. An old friend from college. Unimportant person. Get off work. Shi Yan took my car keys. Offered to drive for me. Traffic is flowing in the night. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. Pick up the phone and reply to the message. Chen Han Chuan, I just got off the plane. I'm about to book a restaurant, but you let me go. He was my senior bro when I was studying for my master's degree. We had a very good relationship. Later he went to a prestigious foreign university to study for a doctorate. Until I return home today. Logically speaking, I shouldn't let him go. But there's a reason. I believe he can understand me. You have returned to your country. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. I have something very important tonight. Chen Han Chuan, what happened? Want my help? I don't have to work overtime. It's a red light. I dim the phone screen. Take the chance to see Shi Yan. Where shall we eat? He looks straight ahead. Hold the steering wheel tightly. Slightly anxious tone. I'm pretty good at cooking. I actually didn't quite understand why I suddenly said this. Shi Yan waited for a while. Turn around and look at me. Raised his chin. Lip corners curved. I'll cook something for you when I go home. Can we still have food at home? Definitely trying to seduce me. My face instantly became hot. I turned my head hastily. Face the window. I can't stop my racing heart at all. No, if you don't want to go, just. I turned around immediately. Hold the seat belt tight. Pretend to regain composure. Didn't say I didn't want to go. After arriving at his house, Shi Yan opened the door. Sudden. A white shadow jumped on me. I was shocked. It's a Samoyed. Shi Yan squatted down and hugged the dog. The dog looks at me with wide eyes. Oops. It seems that the puppy really likes sis. Little boy, there is really no need. Are you addicted to seduce me? I bent forward. I squinted my eyes and touched his head deliberately. Your puppy is so well behaved. Shi Yan's face turned red. Squat and step back. Accidentally fell to the ground. Sis, it was me you touched. He just sat on the ground. Look up at me. The voice feels wronged. My competitive spirit is getting stronger. I cover my eyes with my hands. Smiling, pretending to be sorry. I saw it wrong. My contact lenses fell off. He was almost standing in front of me. Stare at me carefully. The tip of my nose is almost touching my forehead. Even breathing quietly stirs up the heartbeat. How could you find it? I looked away, not daring to look at him. He smiled, not looking for it anymore. I'll order takeout and buy again. Not long after, the takeaway arrived. Not just contact lenses. 2 boxes of sanitary products lie quietly at the bottom. I don't want to admit it either. But I am professional. Is his size? My fingers curled up slightly. Gather the paper bag inside. Make the sound of paper being crumpled. The earlobe slowly became hot. The brain also slowly heats up. Dry mouth. I pretended not to see it. Took a sip of water. The takeaway has arrived. Shi Yan leaned against the kitchen door. There is a smile on the lips. I don't know how long I watched it. I hurriedly put down the cup. Wipe the water from the corners of your lips with your hands. I responded vaguely. A hand pulled a tissue in front of me. Hand it to me. You saw. Why am I pretending to be stupid? If the enemy cannot move, I will not move. Shi Yan hummed in embarrassment. Holding the box between 2 fingers. Bring it to me. That's it. I lean back on the sofa. Gasp. Now. See it now. Oh my God, it's about to be lifted to my face. He shook his fingers slightly. He dexterously took it back and threw it on the coffee table. I'm afraid you'll misunderstand me. Specifically explained. He smiles. Helping a friend put together the order. Sister, please throw it away for me. Turned around and left. Then asked me to throw it away. Why me? Why doesn't he throw it away himself? I'm lying on the sofa, staring at his back. Punch the pillow hard. He won. Shi Yan made 3 dishes and 1 soup, full of color, flavor, and taste. But I ate absent-mindedly. Shi Yan asked me if it tasted good. Tasty. I'm afraid he won't believe it. I even had 2 more mouthfuls of rice. He put down his chopsticks. That's because you don't want to eat it. He looked at me. Understand everything. You want to finish eating quickly, right? I quickly picked up the bowl. No, no. As soon as I finished speaking, the doorbell rang. Shi Yan looked at the door and frowned slightly. With a puzzled expression on his face, he went over to open the door. Uncle, didn't you say you couldn't come to me 'cause you had a date? Now, why? I stood up immediately. Today is really not a good day. I could also meet his uncle who came to visit him. Stop saying it. I don't know which dog ruined my date. I walked to the door of the living room. See the person's face clearly. Pupils are dilated. Oh my God, what kind of family is this? Uncle and nephew are only 8 years apart. Chen Han Chuan also saw me. Push Shi Yan away with one hand. Didn't you tell me you were working overtime? He walked over as he spoke. Cancel our appointment. What are you doing here? Is there a job here for you to work overtime? My scalp was numb when I was asked. Should I say? Not only did I cancel his invitation, also planning to sleep with his nephew. So am I still human? I subconsciously pointed behind him. Your nephew is sick. Chen Han Chuan stared at me. After a while, he turned back to see his nephew. Very confused expression. What's wrong with you? You can still see her. Shi Yan looked at me silently. Pursed lips in grievance. Chen Han Chuan narrowed his eyes and 2 steps forward. Picked up the small box on the coffee table. What's this? Heart skipped a beat. He held it between his fingers. Turn around and look at me. Sneered. Tisk, how sick is this? Also used medical equipment. I want to take it. Chen Han Chuan hid it behind his back expressionlessly. Shi Yan took it away from his hand. The one I bought has expired and I will throw it away. The small square box was thrown into the trash can. My sister has finished her meal too. Uncle, do you want to? Chen Han Chuan raised his eyes and looked at me. The tone is pitiful. What a coincidence, I just didn't eat it. Will you have dinner with me? Shi Yan stopped his hand. Stuck there for a long time. Went to the kitchen to get dishes and chopsticks. Your cooking skills are very good. But I heard from my sister that you don't like cooking. What a pity. He took the chopsticks from Shi Yan's hand and raised your eyes to look at him with half smile. Your mother hasn't even eaten it a few times. Shi Yan's face paused for a moment. Uncle, don't be too sympathetic. When my mother was your age, the children are all in primary school. Chen Han Chuan picked up the chopsticks. Pick food in my direction. Well, what the child said makes sense. We are all older. Junior sister, do you agree? I sit across from him. Brain works quickly. Is this a warning to me not to seduce his nephew? I'm holding the water glass. Didn't even raise his head. Yes. Shi Yan must have felt aggrieved. But in front of his uncle. My senior bro. It's really hard for me to be presumptuous. Chen Han Chuan talked about his arrangements for returning to China. I forgot that Shi Yan was next to me. Senior bro, are you saying that you want to hire me as the deputy chief physician in my hospital? Shi Yan was sitting next to me playing with his mobile phone. The strength of the fingertips suddenly increased. Make a clicking sound. We both looked at him at the same time. Chen Han Chuan frowned. What's wrong with you? I'm at my home. Did it disturb you? Chen Han Chuan did not answer directly. Laughed out in surprise. No, what are you busy with recently? Have you worked? Shi Yan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Keep smiling. Uncle, I haven't graduated from college yet. Are you satisfied? Chen Hanchuan raised his eyebrows slightly. The tone is joking. Oh, sorry, I don't even remember. Then your most critical task now is to complete the graduation thesis. Shi Yan put away his phone. Stand up suddenly. Glanced at me. Went back to the room directly. I looked at his back. I feel sorry for my little boy. Turning around, I met the senior bro's cold gaze. Eat the food cooked by my nephew. It's the important thing you said. I picked my nails nervously. Isn't this important? You said it all. Even his mother hasn't eaten it a few times. Chen Hanchuan pulled away my hand in disgust. Pick your nails when you're nervous. You won't change this habit either. He has been abroad for 4 years. Still remember my little habits. I hid my hands behind my back. I was speechless for a long time. He clicked his tongue in an extremely artificial way. You're not even close to me anymore. He poured water on his own. Lengthened the voice. When I was a graduate student in school, you call me senior bro every day, saying that senior bro is the cutest person in the world. Now you don't have to ask me to send you papers. Too lazy to talk to me anymore. Shi Yan just walked out of the room. Heard this sentence. I cover my face with my hands. I'm really embarrassed. How to explain this? He hasn't gone to graduate school yet, so he doesn't know how practical and necessary skills it is to praise senior brothers. Shi Yan didn't move at all. Look at me from a distance. Frowned. The eye circles are slightly red. Sis, you. Chen Hanchuan tapped the cup with his fingertips and said, called her auntie. Shi Yan turned his head and looked at him. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth and said, Auntie. The smell of gunpowder spreads. This house is going to explode. Shi Yan stared at his uncle with hatred. Chen Hanchuan drank water leisurely. After a while, Shi Yan's eyes suddenly flickered and relaxed. Smiled and said, oh right, Aunt Lin, there's nothing wrong with my body, right? Today you took off my pants and my thing hit you. I'm so sorry. I was struck by 5 thunders. Oh no bro, how dare you say that? You really can say anything openly. Chen Hanchuan spurted out all the water on the spot. I grabbed the car keys, opened the door and ran. I'll go first. Senior bro. I'll send you. Sis. Shi Yan took advantage of his uncle's reaction before he could follow me and escape quickly. Before the elevator door closes, you can still hear Chen Hanchuan calling him. I looked at Shi Yan beside me. He also happened to look at me. The eyes are just foul. He took 2 steps. Want to be closer to me? I pointed to the overhead monitor. Wait until we get to the car. There's no surveillance that can stop him. I'm stuck in the back seat with no way out. Press your back tightly against the car window. Raise your arms to touch his chest. Don't come here again. I'm panicked and confused. Shortness of breath. You are his nephew. This really doesn't work. In the dark carriage, Shi Yan pressed my hand, with scrutinizing gaze. Sister, why do you often call him senior bro? Is he jealous? I was shocked into a daze. It happened that he reached his hand behind my waist, pulled forward hard, forcing me to cling to his upper body. Because of inertia, I threw my head back and hit the car window. Oh no. Don't be like that. I had to put my arms around his neck. Take advantage of his strength to sit firmly on his lap. Free your palms to rub the back of your head. He and I are just friends. I swear. Shi Yan lowered his head and smiled. Reach out and massage me. Sorry, this is my first time doing it in the car. It doesn't sound too embarrassing either. I looked up at him. The tone is helpless and your uncle won't let us do this. Shi Yan snorted softly. Wait until I continue. So no, I have to be a human being. I deeply regret this. He was quiet for a moment, frowned slightly. It's like encountering a difficult disease. Then he put his hand into my coat, took out a small box. But you picked up even this. You probably can't be human anymore. I held his wrist directly. I can't help it either. Can't pretend anymore. Just pull him closer to me. Staring at him intently. It's not completely impossible. If he asks you back, can you just say it was you who seduced me? He raised his chin, lowered his eyes to look at me. The voice is cold. Why? He knows that I am flirting with you. Will kill me. Shi Yan coldly shook off my hand. Auntie, You are more difficult to understand than my graduation thesis. I was stunned, realized he was long gone. I ran out of the car immediately. Shi Yan was almost walking to the elevator. I'm leaning against the car door, bent down and shout to him that I am not an ant. Go to school early. I even skipped a grade. Wrong ID card registration. I'm only a few years older than you. Empty underground garage. My voice echoes for a long time. I feel so embarrassed. Turn around and get into the driver's seat. Slam the car door hard. The dog man seduced me in various ways all night. Besides giving me a bump on the head, I didn't even touch his hand. I've been full of resentment at work these days. Lunch break. My mother even called me to cause trouble. I arranged a blind date for you on the weekend. The address information will be sent to you when the time comes. Mom, I told you, not in a hurry to get married. I'm anxious. She insisted that the other party was excellent. She wanted me to meet him first. Okay. I'll go and see what kind of angel it is. I hung up the phone. Chen Han Chuan is holding 2 cups of coffee. Put it gently on my desk. Auntie forces you to go on a blind date. I nodded perfunctorily. I don't want to mention this again. Senior bro, are you coming to work so soon? He pulled out a chair and sat in front of me. Not reporting for duty. I came to see Dr. Lin for treatment. What disease are you seeking treatment from me for? Don't you know how to do it yourself? He propped up his chin with one hand and looked at me. Push the registration slip to me with one hand. Specialize in the field. How did you show it to my nephew? Just show it to me. I understand he came to settle accounts with me. He must have discovered that I have bad intentions. I asked bravely. So what are your symptoms? Chen Han Chuan smiles. That aspect is too long-lasting. Is it a problem? It feels like being called on by a professor to ask questions. I stare at the computer and type, then replied weakly, yes, it is. But few people come to see it. Maybe my future sister-in-law will like it very much. He looked at my face. After a second or two, he sighed. Medical records are being printed out. That'll be good. It seems like there is a missing process. He stood up. I immediately stood up, but he didn't stop his feet. Chen Han Chuan has already gone around to the back. Lean your thighs against the side of the bed. Put one hand on the belt. Finger press the buckle. Take out half of it. Is this the case? I rushed over in one stride and my hands attached to his. Press hard. Senior bro. No. Please calm down. My mind is confused. We are too familiar. I'll call a male colleague for you. A joking laughter sounded above the head. Chen Han Chuan couldn't stop laughing. He hunches forward, shoulders shaking slightly. The corners of the lips are extremely curved. I'm playing with you. What's the matter with you? You can examine patients and Shi Yan, but you can't examine me. I want to take my hand away. Chen Han Chuan pinched my arm and didn't let me go. Let me ask you, what is wrong with my nephew? He is a decent man. The disheveled look is quite eye-catching. That's the patient's privacy. I turned my head, pointing at random. Would you please put your pants on first? Chen Han Chuan didn't take it seriously. Pull me closer to him. He said something leisurely. I just want to know what kind of disease makes you visit my house after get off work. I froze. What does this mean? How come the nephew and uncle have the same personalities? I was half a beat slow. Break away from his hand. I stood there with my head down and meditating for a while. He can't. Neither can you. Chen Han Chuan is speechless. Of course I am functioning normally. Very well. The oval cubicle curtain was pushed open violently. I feel like the air in the office is thin. Just go over and open the door for some fresh air. Shi Yan was squatting and leaning against the door frame, holding a small cake in his hand. He immediately stood up with his hands on his hands. I heard you were taking a lunch break, but I didn't dare to knock on the door. He is taller than me. Looking over my head, I happened to see Chen Han Chuan standing beside the bed, tightening the belt around his waist. The cake fell to the ground. You all. He can't speak anymore. Cover your chest with your hands. He leans against the door and slowly slides down. I want to report you. Just as he was holding the door, he turned around and heard a bang. He fell to the ground and passed out. I moved forward and caught him. The tone is extremely anxious. What should I do? Senior bro, it's lunch break time now. Chen Han Chuan also came here. Has he always been this weak? Shi Yan is hospitalized. He hasn't eaten for days. Didn't sleep well either. Having severe hypoglycemia. He is lying on the hospital bed. Needle stuck in the back of the hand. Lips turn white. Lifeless. Shi Yan's mother is here too. You are Han Chuan's junior sis. I heard him mention it. Chen Han Chuan said unnaturally. My eldest sister. Dr. Lin has a good job, good education, and is tall and beautiful. Do you have a boyfriend? I used my peripheral vision to aim at the Shi Yan and answer. Auntie, I haven't yet. Shi Yan touched her hand. Weak voice. Mom, What are you doing? His mother completely ignored him. Smile at me more enthusiastically. Don't call me auntie, call me sister. She raised her head and looked at Chen Hanchuan. It's much more convenient if you don't have a boyfriend. It just so happened that Hanchuan had just come back. You can go out to play together? My smile froze. The one he wants to match up with is me and my senior bro. Shi Yan tugged at her sleeves, forced to sit up. Mom, I'm not feeling well. His mother patted his back gently. Every now and then, she also didn't forget to tease me and Chen Hanchuan. Son, do you think Dr. Lin and your uncle are a good match? Shi Yan pushed her hand away, said expressionlessly, Mom, please go back. I'm much better. He got kicked away. Dr. Lin, come and play mahjong when you have time. Chen Hanchuan sent her down. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. Goodbye, sister. Shi Yan and I were the only ones left in the ward. He sat on the bedside and looked at me quietly. He looked pale and didn't say a word. I left without saying anything. When I came back, this man put the quilt over his head and the back of his head was shaking slightly, and there was a faint sound. I thought about it and pulled it away. Shi Yan was curled up on his side in the bed, dazed. When I look up, my eyes and nose are all wet, and my face and neck are slightly red from tears. He quickly wiped away his tears. I didn't cry. I put the cake on the bed. I took a spoon and took a bite and put it into his mouth. You brought cakes and you still have low blood sugar? Shi Yan tasted it slowly. The act of swallowing causes the Adam's apple to slide down. Finally licked my lips, staring straight at me. His performance seems delicious. I want to try it too. Haven't put the spoon in my mouth yet. The person in front of me holds my hand. Lower his head and come over. Then he raised his head and kissed me. Sweetness pours into my mouth. Creamy flavor. Shi Yan's beauty is so close at hand. I open my eyes wide and my heart beats like thunder. I forgot to swallow for a moment and let him lick it clean. He stared at me for a long time and slowly stepped back and lowered his head. Use your hand to hook my fingers. If my uncle asks me in the future, I will say that I seduced you. Is it okay? My heart is so soft that it will melt. I bit my lower lip tightly. Only then can I barely keep from laughing out loud. Then I promised him very reservedly, okay, it's the weekend. I still have to deal with the blind date I promised my mother before. When I arrived at the private room, I opened the door and saw that it was full of people. My parents and my brother are both here, as well as Shi Yan's parents. Chen Hanchuan is sitting on the right, and the seat next to him is empty. He gestured slightly to me. I was silent for a long time. I went wrong. My mother stopped me.
Xing is right.
Sit down quickly. I went back again, sitting next to Chen Hanchuan. Ask awkwardly but politely, Senior bro, why didn't you tell me earlier that you were my blind date? He poured me tea slowly. I'm not a fairy. I laughed awkwardly. On the dining table, my parents are very different from Shi Yan's parents, probably because the senior bro's parents are older, so only my sister and brother-in-law can come forward. Chen Hanchuan responded calmly from the side. My brother Lin Chen was taking pictures of Australian lobsters and Arctic clams with his mobile phone. I picked up the chopsticks and put them down again. No appetite. My mother's threatening eyes swept over me. Let me talk to the senior bro. Chat with Chen Hanchuan. Picked up the red wine and clinked glasses with him. Lean over with your upper body. Whisper in his ear and look very intimate. I said in a very soft voice. Senior bro, why didn't you tell me it was you earlier? I got a boyfriend. He immediately put down his glass of wine. My wrist accidentally hit the handle of the knife and fork and it fell to the ground. Excuse me. He bent down to pick it up, but the waiter was already there first. He sat back again. I regained my composure and put a shrimp on my plate. When, just 2 days ago, I sat there, my body stiff. He was silent for a while. That's not a big problem. I immediately sat upright and became stunned. Someone came in during the meal. Shi Yan looked at us and spoke breathlessly. My parents and my uncle are all part of the same family. Why didn't you call me for dinner? And Chen was the first to welcome him. What a coincidence. Shi Yan, Dr. Chen is your uncle. Lin Chen moved a chair and placed it next to him on his own initiative. As a result, Chen Hanchuan had to move aside and get closer to me. I feel so crowded. Since Shi Yan sat down, his eyes have never left my side. Lin Chen talked to him. Do you have to call me uncle when things are done? Shi Yan turned to look at him, word by word. Don't confuse things. Lin Chen smiled and said, okay, good nephew Shi Yan. My parents knew Shi Yan. He and Lin Chen were classmates in junior high school. Used to come to my house to play. Two sets of parents politely praised each other's sons. Shi Yan is quite lively and generous. Toast my parents with grape juice. He is good looking, can talk and is full of energy. Plus, Lin Chen made the atmosphere lively. Chen Hanchuan and I were both left out in the cold, but we don't want to talk either. It wasn't until the end that Chen Hanchuan got up and went to check out. Uncle, I paid the bill. The whole audience was stunned. Shi Yan's mother was the first to react. Sure enough, the nephew is close to the uncle. This kid is too sensible, but a little stupid. Do you need to pay for it when the adults are here? Shi Yan said, it's okay. We are all one family. He even called his parents chauffeurs from both families, and was waiting in the parking lot. Shi Yan walked up to me and Chen Hanchuan, holding my coat in his arms. He said casually, Uncle and Aunt Lin are both drunk. It just so happens that I didn't drink. I'll take you back. Who can see this and not praise his nephew for being sensible? My parents were so touched. Let Lin Chen learn from Shi Yan. Wait until everyone else has left. Shi Yan put the coat on my shoulders. His face and tone of voice change at a moment's notice. Uncle, let me take a taxi for you. Chen Hanchuan looked at him quietly for a long time. Then he turned to me stiffly and spoke expressionlessly. This is your boyfriend. When the four eyes are facing each other, silence is better than sound. I feel really bad about falling in love with his little nephew. Senior brother. At this moment, Shi Yan put his hand on my shoulder. He pulled me into his arms to fulfill his promise. Uncle, I took the initiative to seduce her. She was not willing at first. Just scold me. Don't scold her. Chen Hanchuan turned around, walked a few steps forward, stopped, and then came back. He obviously took a deep breath.
Lin Xinger.
If you break up now, I will assume that he never said this. I looked at him silently. He laughed at himself softly. My nephew does look like an angel. He turned around and left. Shi Yan drove me back. The viaduct at night is like a strip of light piercing the sky. Outline the gorgeous night sky. The evening breeze flows in through the skylight. How did you get here? Lin Chen showed off his feast in the group. Said his eldest sister was on a blind date. The restaurant in the photo has its name. Fortunately, there are only 12 chain restaurants of this restaurant in the city. I was lucky and found the 9th one. He held the steering wheel, curled his lips and chuckled. Sis, how am I doing? Your parents like me very much. My parents probably didn't think that way. My first reaction was that you were here to arrest me. Shi Yan tapped on the central control screen. The skylight was slowly pulled forward to block out the sound of wind outside. The car suddenly became quiet. I won't let my girl lose face. The delicacy and consideration he exudes made my heart skip a beat. Car parked in garage front seat. I held Shi Yan's face and kissed her deeply and lightly. I didn't let him go until both sides of his face were covered with messy lipstick marks. I put my hands forward and wrapped my arms around his neck. I heard there are many girls chasing you in school. Can you go to class this way? He met my gaze. His earlobe slowly turned red, and his Adam's apple rolled slightly. Sister, do you want others to see me like this? I frowned deliberately to embarrass him and said, can't you? He suddenly grabbed my waist, pulled the distance closer, and leaned forward to my ear. His voice was full of grievances. What should I do if they all know that I am a little naughty dog outside? I touched his hair and he closed his eyes and let out a long groan before leaning against me. I pushed forward and he opened the car door. I wanted to go home. He was stunned. I go with you. No, I live with Lin Chen. Shi Yan lowered his head and thought for a moment. Then he raised his head and stared at me depressedly. You did it on purpose because I left you in the car last time I left. I stretched out my index finger and poked his forehead lightly. Little naughty dog. You even call me aunt. I turned and left. Shi Yan immediately followed over. Sorry sister, was still too young last week. What about this week? He decisively took my arm. He was 1.85 meters tall and bent over hard to the side. He leaned his head on my shoulder and acted like a baby. I love you. I love sis. I love aunt.
I love Lin Xinger.
And I love Dr. Lin. He shouted so loudly that he looked like a psychopath who had successfully escaped. I covered his mouth directly. My face has been completely humiliated by you. He stalked me into the elevator and followed me to the door of my house. I said awkwardly, Lin Chen will really come back. Shi Yan asked me to wait a moment. He sent a message in the group. High City Esports Hotel all night. Is anyone there? My treat. Lin Chen picked up instantly. Shi Yan showed me the phone screen. Done. After a while, hey, Shi Yan, where have you been? I'm not feeling well. I won't go. You can play and send me the bill. Got a cold? Your voice sounds different. Well, I have a fever. I'll go to bed first. Before Lin Chen could speak again, the call was hung up. He put one hand on the head of the bed and lowered his head feebly, his forehead covering his eyebrows. His breathing became heavier and heavier, and the sweat on his forehead dripped on my eyelids. He gently brushed it away with his palm, cautiously. It's your first time too. I took the initiative to touch his palm with my face. It turns out that the little boy not only has feelings, he also has such a keen mind. Well, what's going on? Were you lying to the doctor when you said you had experience? Shi Yan turned his head away as if his hand had been burned, refusing to move. Then a shy voice slowly came from the dark room. Honey, you already have me. Stop playing with me. I sighed. I barely managed to get up with my hands and pecked him on the face. Whisper in his ear, I love you, and blow on him playfully. The hand he was holding suddenly became unstable, and his upper body fell on me uncontrollably. When the two of us bumped into each other, we gasped. It hurts so much. I grabbed his hair angrily. He slowly lifted his face from my chest and said with a silly smile, it's so soft. 9 o'clock in the morning. Lin Chen came back to sleep feeling groggy. He bumped into Shi Yan making porridge in the kitchen. Hi. Morning. Are you feeling better about your cold? Shi Yan was stunned and turned back to him. Much better. Lin Chen entered the room. 3 minutes later, he came out again, full of questions. No, this is my home. What are you doing here? As soon as I left the room, I walked towards Shi Yan without opening my eyes and put my hands around his waist. I said coquettishly, my chest still hurts. He pushed me away slightly and coughed. Honey, someone is here. Lin Chen opened his eyes wide and everyone stood upright and instantly grew 5 centimeters taller. You. He leaned back and put his hands on the wall and almost stopped breathing. Shi Yan, you bastard. I said you were generous. He went into the room to look for something. Shi Yan pushed me into the room and said, honey, sleep a little longer. I looked up at him. Then you. He lowered his head and kissed me, then closed the door. The two people outside were making a lot of noise. Can hear the words friend, junior high school and my sister. I don't know how long it took before there was a heavy slamming of the door. The door to my room opened. Shi Yan's clothes were in a mess, his cheeks were slightly swollen, and his eyebrows were hurt, but his smile was sweeter. Honey, it's time for breakfast. He filled a bowl of porridge and put it on the table in front of me. I said I like you and he hit me. I said I have liked you since I was in the first grade of junior high school, and he beat me even harder. I said I slept with you, and then I fought back. Otherwise you will be beaten to death. The unheard voice is like throwing a stone into a pot. Make people's hearts tremble. I pretended to be calm and took the spoon. You said you liked me since the first day of junior high school? Shi Yan sat across from me. In the last semester of your senior bro year of high school, you took the first place in the city's college entrance examination. The school requires you to write an article about your study experience and publish it in a high school student classroom magazine. The accompanying picture is a photo of you speaking in English, wearing a white shirt, suit, and skirt. At that time, you still had bangs and a pointy face and you didn't smile, which was very cool. He fell into memories. I admired you very simply at first. One day at noon, you came to deliver homework to Lin Chen. Lin Chen happened to be away. You called me to the door of the classroom and asked me to hand it over to him. You also praised me for being handsome and told me not to fall in love prematurely. His eyes were slightly lost in thought. At lunch break was like a dream, and later I became friends with Lin Chen. I thought about it carefully and found out that this is what happened. Children from the first grade of junior high school are really not handsome, but Shi Yan is much prettier than my brother. Tall and fair-skinned, wear neatly in school uniforms. Very polite. I was probably in my senior bro year of high school and was under a lot of pressure. Even if you meet a little boy by chance, you still have to talk to him, but don't talk about it now. Afraid that he will be heartbroken. Shi Yan glanced at me secretly. So I listened to your words and never fell in love. I immediately lowered my head and became confused. From the first year of junior high school to the 4th year of college, it's almost 10 years. I don't know how to respond to his crush. At that moment, my brain twitched and I blurted out, well, secret love is also puppy love. His tone was slightly lowered. If so, then I'm not good boy. My parents soon found out that Chen Hanchuan and I failed to go on a blind date. I can only tell them that I have a boyfriend. My mother asked ecstatically on the phone, where is he from? What kind of job does he have? Do you have any photos? What are his family conditions like? I looked at Shi Yan, who was preparing for thesis defense next to me. He is a local. His job will change in the second half of the year. He looks young. His family and you should be able to get along well. Sounds okay. Does he have savings? Does he have a higher income than you? I took a breath. He is still in college and may have some savings. The voice in the receiver was silent for a long time. Mom knows. It's not that you're not in a hurry to get married. You just haven't had enough fun yet. Play Play as much as you want, see what you can come up with. My mother thought there was something wrong with my outlook on life, so she simply stopped urging me to get married. It can be considered as a blessing. Shi Yan closed the notebook. He went to wash his face, change his clothes, and asked me to walk the dog with him. Summer evenings are the best for walking the dog.
At 6:30 at night.
The sky has not darkened yet, but the street lights are on. Sky is a particularly light blue-gray-white. We walked on the sidewalk outside the community. He held the white dog with one hand and my hand with the other. Occasionally the puppy will suddenly run excitedly. He was pulled at the same time. He smiled and pulled me to go faster. I took his hand and ran forward with all my strength. When I got tired of running, I would hold his arm, raise my head and smile at him. This is the correct posture for a couple to walk their dog. His arms froze and stopped in place, and he blushed quietly. He doesn't want to move forward and doesn't care about the dog anymore. Go home, go home. We walked in while kissing. We found that the lights in his house were on. Well, you didn't turn off the light. He rubbed my face affectionately. Look up at the living room. Suddenly stopped and made an unexpected sound. Mom, you are here. I turned around and saw Shi Yan's mother. My heart stopped and my limbs became stiff. I first slid my legs off his waist, then took my hands off his neck. Hi, sister. I took half a step back and was about to turn around and leave. Who would have known that my waist was hugged by Shi Yan and pushed in front of his mother? Mom, this is my girlfriend, he said and looked down at me. He raised his eyebrows slightly in anticipation. I had to change my words. Hello, Aunt. Shi Yan's mother was so shocked that she was stunned. Hello, you can sit wherever you like. She turned around in panic. Han Chuan. I took 2 steps forward uncontrollably. Chen Han Chuan was sitting on the sofa with his arms straight and expressionless. It's just that he was too quiet, sitting there like an invisible man. It's okay, I know. He looked up at me and spoke calmly. Shi Yan's mother breathed a sigh of relief. She turned her head and frowned, dragging Shi Yan into the room. They were arguing as they walked. What's going on? You. She lowered her voice and asked her son. Shi Yan answered extremely firmly. Mom, I seduced her, and I succeeded. His mother was stunned when she heard this. She hit him hard on the back and pushed him into the room, and the door was forcefully closed. Why do you have to compete with your uncle for his girlfriend? How old are you? Don't you know your uncle is of marriageable age? Do you feel ashamed? It's none of my business. No, even without me, there are still shameless young men out there who would compete with uncle for his girlfriend. And
Xing doesn't like him.
And not uncle's girlfriend yet. His mother was so angry that she could hardly breathe. You, can't you find a young and beautiful little girl? Mom, don't say that. Shi Yan seemed to have walked behind the door, scratching the crack in the door and shouting.
Xing,
as long as you like me, no matter how many young and beautiful people there are out there, I won't even look at them. You have to believe me. Shi Yan's mother completely lost control and gave up reasoning. You? Screw your mother. Mother? Yes, you are my mother. A loving mother and a filial son. Shi Yan smiled and talked back to his mother coquettishly. Inexplicably, he managed to calm his mother's mood. Chen Han Chuan and I were sitting in the living room and heard everything without missing a word. He spoke first. I have changed my job and am going to Beijing to develop. I said it's pretty good. He waited for a while and turned to look at me. At that time, I took a year off due to illness, and my instructor told me to stay in the country. But I didn't expect that I would be able to get a full scholarship offer from abroad later. In fact, one day, I went to the laboratory very late to get documents and saw you crying alone. I lowered my head and said nothing. He paused. But you know that opportunity is really valuable. Singer, you and I have both been excellent people since childhood. You should be able to understand my choice. I nodded. Of course. Chen Han Chuan curled his lips and softened his voice. But I just saw you and Shi Yan coming in, and I was quite envious. If I hadn't gone abroad, maybe we would have been married. The room returned to silence and no one spoke for a long time. I slowly tightened my palms. Senior bro, I did like you. There is nothing to deny it. But I cried because I raised my head and looked at him steadily. I mustered up the courage to speak out in one breath. It's because I heard that you want to stay in China, so I rejected the overseas school. Unfortunately, there was also a problem with the supervisor's PhD quota that year. I admit that I was very disappointed when you went abroad, but what I was sad about at the time was, I screwed up my past self because I liked you. I can obviously do better. Chen Han Chuan's face had slight cracks. Senior bro, I have always admired you. I should make the right choice like you. But I didn't. it's my problem. I pulled some tissues from the coffee table, wiped all the tears clean. There were only a few months left, and I was going to prepare for the PhD. During that time, I locked myself at home, and my physical and mental state was very poor. My brother just finished his college entrance examination, and my mother forced him to move in with me. Shi Yan also came over and stayed with my brother for a summer vacation. He is like a happy puppy, surrounding me every day. I slowly started to like him. After I finished speaking, I looked up at him. Senior bro, I don't feel any regrets. You will always be my reliable and admired friend. Chen Han Chuan looked at me with deep eyes. Then I have regrets. I stood up directly and took 2 steps back. He lowered his head and smiled bitterly. My decision to go to Beijing for development was not entirely because of you and Shi Yan. It was me who rejected that better unit before. Fortunately, there is still a chance to regret it. He walked up to me. He stretched out his hands and hugged me gently. Next time we meet, follow Shi Yan and call me uncle. Chen Han Chuan let me go and smiled lightly. He went and knocked on the door. Sister, let's go. Stop eavesdropping. It was only later that I remembered that the room had been quiet for a long time. Shi Yan's mother opened the door quickly, her hand still covering Shi Yan's mouth, probably to stop him from speaking out. She wiped her hands and followed Chen Han Chuan out. She reluctantly said goodbye to me. Dr. Lin, come to my house to play during the Chinese New Year. I stood at the door and waved awkwardly. Behind me, a big dog hugged me hard. The collision was so hard that I almost lost my footing. I was moved to tears when I heard your stories. Who is he? Let you broke up. This person is too bad. He put his chin on my shoulder. He is so happy that he is talking nonsense. I tried my best to break his hand apart, but it seems to be locked. Why can't it be unlocked? I had no choice but to look back at Shi Yan. Have you finished writing your graduation thesis? He lost all strength and means in an instant. 2 months later, Shi Yan graduated. The school lawn is full of students. There are clusters of academic uniforms of various colors, like bright and flamboyant flowers and grass. Shi Yan saw me in the crowd at a glance. He says hello to the people around him. Soon he ran over laughing. He showed me his graduation certificate, degree certificate, outstanding graduate certificate, and the dozen job offers he got. Finally, a large bouquet of flowers appeared on my hand. His eyes were sincere and he spoke seriously.
Xing
I am not as mature and outstanding as my uncle now, but as long as you give me time I will prove that I am worthy of you. I took the flower from him and said, okay. The end.